Hello everyone, welcome to Bop's Garden, and I'm Bop. We're going to talk today about how to saw a limb off of a tree. Well, if we were going to be doing this, we're going to need a saw, and we're going to need a branch to cut. So when we cut off a branch, we can't just cut off right where it meets the tree. We call that junction the collar. There's a lot of heavy branch where we cut that through that, the whole branch will tear down and damage where the limb meets the tree. So I'm going to show you this 3-cut sequence. We're going to be using a saw, which is a pull saw. It's called a Felco number 600. It's a folding saw. And this saw cuts only on the pull. So we bring the saw down and we bring it this way, it's only cutting in the one direction. When the saw goes the other way, it's not cutting in that direction. So let's take a look at this 3-cut sequence. So here we have a Norway maple. These are invasive trees in the back of my house, and we really don't care whether we're going to have any problems with them in terms of cutting them. So this is just a random method of choosing something to demonstrate for you. And you'll see this, there's no reason to cut this tree, but we're doing it to teach you. So we have a very heavy branch here, and if this is the collar in here, and if we start cutting here, this heavy branch is going to pull down and actually tear this area, and it's going to be very difficult for the tree to heal this cut, and it might not even heal at all. So what we need to do is we need to start out further away from this junction, and we're going to make our first cut in here, which is going to be an undercut. This way, when we start sawing and the tree starts to, this limb starts to come down, it will stop at this point. So our very first cut is going to be an undercut. So here's our Felco number 600, and we're just making a little, going in only about a couple inches here. And now that we've made the cut, here's where the cut was, we can start sawing through this branch, and we can saw all the way through it. If we start to saw and it starts to tear, it's going to stop at this point right here. So here's our finish of our second cut. This is our first, second, and now we make the third cut, and we can cut all the way through here because the weight of this is not going to tear in here. And there we go. So I have, and this is finishing, and we're going to be cutting to this collar, not into it, but to it. We don't need any wound dressing here. We no longer use that kind of thing. Let the tree naturally heal itself. So we always cut to this branch collar and not into the branch collar. So you'll see that the swollen junction here, and this branch collar will help the make a chemical barrier which will protect the wound. There's chemicals in this collar. That's why we don't cut into it, just to it. And this is the branch bark ridge here, this line here, the darker line. We don't want to touch that at all. And as I mentioned, we don't need any kind of wound dressing. So this branch doesn't really need a 3-cut sequence. But when you first start with this, you might want to start with a small branch and then just get into the habit of every time you cut, you need to cut with this 3-cut sequence. So I'm pointing here. This is where the collar is. I'm going to show you when I first start this where the collar is. And then we'll do the 3-cut sequence. So putting my finger where I'm going to need to eventually cut. This is the undercut. Then we come further out. We cut all the way through. You see how sharp this saw is. It's a really fantastic saw. And now we can just cut the rest of it with our third cut. We're going to cut to the collar. And here we go. It's going to, you'll see, it's going to just come off very neatly, and we'll end up with this nice cut that will heal. And that's it. Very simple. So let's see some examples of the healing properties of a tree, and a couple other notes on this three cut sequence. So here's a situation where when cutting off a branch, we don't want to cut through this entire section here. If two different branches need to come off, we try to leave this little bit of tissue right in between them, so each one can heal individually. If we were to cut all the way through, we would be cutting through the collar, and we would leave a very large wound. So we never want, if we need to take off two branches, if we can, we try to keep those separately. So here's a collar closing up a wound. And you'll see one that wasn't properly done, and we have some tearing down here, but this will be a proper cut right in through here. And you can see how far away, this is a beech, how far away from that is from the trunk. This collar comes right out here. Thank you for watching. Please follow, subscribe, and comment on these videos, and we'll be seeing you next time on Bob's Garden. And remember, be curious, not judgmental.